I never knew the name of the permanent pond in Providence's North Burial Ground. I always referred to it as either the turtle or the frog pond, but I was asked what its name was, so I looked at the map and found it was named Ridgeside Lake. It is a very appropriate name, as the pond sits just to the east of a little esker, an ancient glacial feature that snakes through the northern lowlands of the burial ground. I sometimes walk on the little ridge, but rarely video it. It doesn't have many animals that you can see, and this is, after all, Mashastic critters, not Mashastic landscapes. This little pond probably has as much wildlife per square foot as any other site in the city, and it gets visits, often or occasionally, by an incredible variety. While not all pictured here, I have seen 11 different kinds of mammals, including regular visits of bats, muskrat, and squirrels, to once-in-a-decade visits from deer and otters, with coyote and fox a major threat to the rabbits and mice. Little birds are hard to video, so I only include a bit of their antics. But 3 kinds of herons visit regularly, hawks fly by, kingfishers hunt, and we have waterfowl, both common and occasional, including a hooded merganser that visited for the first time this past winter, and an almost yearly sighting of wood ducks passing through. The format is a picture of the pond from the same vantage point each month so that you can watch the pond scenery change across the year. This is followed by a small sample of the wildlife found that month, generally, though not always, in the order of tiny creatures, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Now let's catch up to the action. In May, we are really into spring, and everything is starting to waken. The best action shots I ever get of the painted turtles are watching them climb up the log. Often they fall down, but today he made it. And here is the wood ducks. The male in front, the female much more muted, but with that beautiful white eye in the back. This video was supposed to end in December 2017, but I continued it into January to explore the effects of the cold snap and to ponder what might happen this coming summer. So you get a January 2018 bonus to complete more of the tale. The pond froze completely, closing off even the little openings near the inlet, the outlet, and the muskrat den. Tadpoles were active around all of the little openings until they froze solid, and I got some video in December and January. But after the coldest day and the rainstorm that followed, I found many dead tadpoles all along the shore, though I know at least some survived. A couple of weeks later, during a second thaw, I found many dead fish on the surface where they had frozen back into the new ice. They looked like they had died when the tadpoles had died in the deepest cold, and with the thaw had floated to the surface. I can only speculate on the cause of death, but there are 2 main possibilities. Either the pond froze right to the bottom, or the ice sealed the pond, and the pond being a low oxygen environment to begin with. Note the murky algae-based color all summer. There was no air contact with the water, and the pond became more anoxic than usual. The bullfrog tadpoles have a curious habit in this pond. They surface regularly. I think they do it so they can use wet gills to absorb oxygen that they can't get from the water. And while in winter they need less oxygen, not being able to surface is a hardship. I used to think that maybe the tadpoles were breaching like little whales because they wanted to catch insects, but since they eat algae, I kind of doubt that. I started this discussion while watching the great blue heron eat a catfish, and I do not think we shall get as many visits this summer, with both the tadpoles and the fish much reduced in number from winter kill. It will be interesting to see how this affects the pond this coming summer, and you can be sure I will give you more information as I get it. I think I got some of my best rabbit pictures ever this summer. I'm no dragonfly expert, but I know that there are at least 5 or 6 different kinds of dragonflies at this pond. July is breeding season for the sunfish, and one of the curious sights is a whole array of little sunfish, each on their own little nest, protecting their territory, chasing away intruders, trying to find females to mate with, and fanning the eggs. Bullfrog tadpoles stay in the pond up to 3 years. Each July, a new cohort of frogs comes out of the water, and the shorelines that had 2 or 3 frogs in the spring all of a sudden have a frog explosion. Doves are common on the ridge, but hard to capture in pixels as they are wary of humans and they spend most of the time in the thick forest. My best dove pictures are when they come out by the pond. I didn't get any pictures of night herons hunting this year. What I got was pictures of them in close proximity to other kinds of birds, like this great blue heron. Just above the abutment of the outflow of the pond is a little grassy area. Both the rabbits and the muskrats seem to use it as a place to feed. The deep brown color of the pond is the result of massive algae blooms. The system is fed by an abundance of leaf fall, providing compost for the whole system, which nourishes the algae that provides food for the tadpoles, fish, insects, and all manner of small life, which feed the dragonflies, which feed the frogs, which feed the herons and the otters. Actually, it is even more interconnected than that, but you get the picture. Note the disturbance on the left. When I walked by, I caused a small frog to move away, and the bigger frog nabbed it for lunch. Watching it go down the hatch is not for the squeamish. I rarely get good pictures of the pond insects when I try to. Most of my best pictures of insects in the pond are when I try to get pictures of tadpoles and they just happen to swim by. September seems to be a good month for dragonflies. You've got this red-veined meadowhawk. When you zoom the camera in enough to capture pictures of dragonflies across the pond, you get a bit of distortion, but in this case it looks rather cool. Frogs and tadpoles make good subjects for beginning nature video makers, as they inhabit small territories and can be seen in the same parts of the pond nearly every day in season. They change considerably in a relatively short time, measured in weeks, months, and years, and they are willing to conduct their lives as if you did not exist as long as you stay far enough away. They breed at night, making that part harder to capture, but you can see them in season almost every day, and if you learn their ways, eventually you capture much of it in pixels. Turtles seem to be much harder to video. The way the light reflects off the shell on their heads makes it very difficult to get clear pictures of any details. But the need to sit long hours in the sun to manage their body temperatures means that in the spring and summer you can video them most days if you keep your distance. Great blue herons vary immensely. Some let you watch fairly closely, others fly away as soon as you get anywhere near the pond. And one flew away to the same tree most of the time, confirming that it was the same one for the 2 weeks it was around. I really like to watch how they move their legs when they walk through the water. As different as they look, these 2 young turtles are the same species. They're painted turtles. What you find is that the shell color doesn't really help you identify turtles, but shell patterns are important, as are the markings on the head. When the water is warm, you see the turtles swimming as much as you see them doing anything else. Fall is one of the times of year you see a lot of Canada geese at the pond. Mallards too. Great fall colors in the burial ground, and especially along the pond. Squirrels spend a lot of time burying acorns and digging up acorns. Two things to notice here: the changes between early and late November, and on the left the tree fell in the pond in late October, and for the first time in quite a while there is a good afternoon place for the turtles to sun in the pond. Of course, check out the squirrel, but what you're really looking at here is the esker, and as the squirrel climbs, you'll get all of you all the way up to the top of it. Eskers are mostly sand and gravel, so they don't hold water very well, and therefore what you mostly get growing are oaks. It warmed up a lot after the overnight snow, so we got a lot of melt that day. This scene is a pretty good view of the ridge. I am heading from the northwest corner of the pond, going west towards the ridge, and then I am heading south towards the center of the pond. Needed to show one little sparrow eating some seeds off of a catkin. We leave December in 2017 with the tadpole swimming in a small hole in the ice, but you have bonus coverage. I talked enough during the video about what happened in January 2018, so I thought I ought to give you a glimpse. The pond froze more and more each day until it hit -7 degrees, at which point it was completely frozen. As it was freezing up, some of the tadpoles congregated at tiny holes in the ice. The one on the right has frost on its head. At the first thaw, after the big freeze, I found a lot of dead tadpoles. And after the next freeze-thaw cycle, I found the fish frozen in. Now we wait for spring.